On the other hand, when it came time to make money, trust me, that's a radio studio in my basement. That is not a podcasting studio that's down there now. And my look when I show up and do a remote event, and this was told directly to me by the head sales guy at WGN after he lost his account at Court and Carey, was you look better than us when you show up. You have more banners, your table's nicer, your setup's nicer, you're giving away more than we're giving. Like, I spend money to make money. So the thing is, like, you start as small, you want to grow your podcast, you want to figure out how to do it, but when you get to the point where you're going to make money, then you're in business, and you have to present yourself as being something reliable to the advertiser, because you're trying to get them to spend their hard-earned money with you. So they have to believe that you're giving them something and that you're trustworthy, you're reliable, your show's going to be out on time, it's always going to have great content, you're not all of a sudden going to say something ridiculously political that's going to turn off their actual people that use their place, that you stick to what you promised them you were going to give them. And you have to be able to give that kind of trust out. You have to radiate that out so they believe in you.
There's also, I'm sorry, can I just dogleg?
Of course.
Just very briefly, there's also, to continue on with what you're saying, there's the invisible value prop. And I have had people on my podcast that were not native American speakers, like English was their second or even their third language. Well, I'm an editing ninja. I'm obsessive. Like, I'll go in and take every and and pause and repetition out, and they're on the podcast, and it's like nobody knows. Well, the couple of times I've done that, it's like, man, these people are my biggest brand ambassadors. They'll promote anything I do. And I can't do it myself, right? So that's something that it's an invisible value prop in a way, but really thinking about if you have guests on your podcast who are maybe being represented by a sponsor, how can you make them look as good as possible in an authentic way?
We'll have one more question from the back, but I want to throw something to you guys real quick. One idea or approach, it's something I tried, I want to get your take on it. If you don't have sponsors, is it helpful to have an unpaid sponsor, or just basically show a proof of concept, like go to a friend who owns a business, hey, can I do a 20-second live read for you as a billboard to my show, just so you have something to take to an advertiser, like, hey, I've got Bob's whatever.
Oh yeah, I did that. Yeah, when I was ready to start selling ads, my buddy who owned Westgate Music was on. I had a full produced ad for him. I mean, I had 4 or 5 small business owners or people that I knew that I ran ads for. Because if somebody listens to your show and nobody is running an ad, they're gonna be like, I'm not gonna be the guinea pig for this.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. So in fact, I still have people that I use when I launch a new show. I have people that I use when I have like open ad space, because I never want it to look like, oh man, he's losing advertisers. So I mean, I fill the spaces no matter what. And so yes, I think there's a great benefit to doing that. Plus, it gives confidence to them when they hear it. They're going to hear what the ad's going to sound like. That's the thing. You can describe what it's going to sound like, but you want them to hear. And they need to envision, like, oh, this is what I would sound like when they talked about me or if they made something pre-produced.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is absolutely yes, because you've got to prime the pump. I have a friend who has a podcast, and he's killing it with the ratings. And I helped him, record his theme music, and I've done some of the on-site tapings for him. And I said to him, look, you need that first ad. Let me produce an ad for my studio, put it on the air. I'll pay you to put the ad on, just because he's a bud. But, if you run it for free, you're going to attract other advertisers. I still don't understand why this person is reluctant to do it, because there's, for all the effort in the podcast, paying an editor, everything else, not making a dime yet.
All right, one final question from the back of the room.
Sorry if you've already answered this, but when do you know that you're ready to talk? When do you know, okay, this is the time that we start seeking out clients?
It's a great question. When do you know that you're ready to start?
It's weird. I had goals for myself. Like, I knew, like, with the Evergreen Park one, how many people were in Evergreen Park. And I was like, well, I have to have a good enough chunk for it to be valuable. With the White Sox show, I watched what other shows were pulling in if I could find where they were at. And I got to a point where I felt like I was as big as any other podcast that was out there. There was a point where we were pulling numbers that were similar to the one that NBC Sports pulls. And I was like, well, I should be making money then. Okay, the one that Chuck Garfien does. I was like, okay, we're in that ballpark now. We can start selling ads. I mean, there were goals that I kind of set out, but on the other hand, there were people, like when I was out at events, who started saying, when do I get to advertise on this show? I mean, that was also a really good indicator as well. But in the end, the advertising is the last thing. You have to have not only a show, a concept, a flow, but you have to, I started a company, is what I did. I sank $20,000 into it before I sold an ad. Okay, I knew I wanted to do this. I built a professional studio. I went out and bought promotional items. Like, I was starting a business. I did my first podcast, was fun, and I never even turned that into the business. But I made all my mistakes on that show, and it was called The Broadcast Basement, and now it's just the name of the company. The Broadcast Basement podcast doesn't even exist. I mean, it's sitting